Good morning and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host, and this is a podcast of how to fight CPS and also how to save your children. I want to give a warm welcome. I know all of you are probably in some sort of disarray with the child protection system. It's not your fault. I'm sadly to say that the child protection system, 99.99% of the time in the United States and the world, they have some problems. They really have some serious problems. And one of them is they use the system to make money. And you probably wonder how they make money. Well, they get the money from the federal government, and I guess the federal government is not worried about how much they should use. The federal government does not monitor or talk to them about how much money they need to make or anything. And so, with that being said, they it's an $80 billion business. And I know firsthand in my case, my three children, there were trafficking and stolen from CPS. Uh, we're getting about $60,000 for all three of them, at $20,000 a piece every month. And that's a lot of money. And that's more money they need to take care of them. I'm trying to, don't know why I got holes in my head here. I'm trying to use a background. The sun has always plays a major role, so I got to rotate the screen so I get the best view. Here we go. Let me put my phone number down for a second here because I need to talk about some of the other things, how they react with the room. If I get a phone call that interrupts me, so I'm doing temporary take it down. I'll be back up with my phone number. Not to worry. Not to worry. So there are several ways to interact with this podcast. It's an interactive podcast. It means you can participate in it. One way is just to be a listener. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. You just listen. And I'd love to have you there. And maybe later you want to say something or talk about something or maybe some information to help you in your case. And I hope that is the case because my whole purpose here is to help you. I'm not a licensed attorney. I have a good background uh, in CPS because I was once there myself and I've been fighting for about 15 years. So I've heard all the horror stories and all the things that they do, not protecting the parents or the children. So you come to the right place to find out. There's somebody that left a message here. Oh, Lori. Hi, Lori. How are you today? She's got a person named Tracy Smith that she's honoring. Lori Hillner has been coming to my podcast forever, and I have no idea where she's from, but she always recognizes somebody. Tracy Smith must be someone that had lost a child or something like that. So she recognizes different people from time to time. Wow. So we're here talking about ways you interact in this room, and one is be a good listener. The second thing is that if you want to send me comments, text me comments, that'd be really great. I'd love to have you do that. Now, the text me comments is a simple procedure. All you have to do is type in your comment. Make sure it pertains to CPS. We're here to talk about CPS. I know there's a lot in this world we could talk about, and I love to talk about, but right now it has to be the child protection system. Anything to do with that, uh, would be great. So you type your comments about CPS. When you do so, can you please show me your name, city, state, or country? Now, the reason why I ask you to show your name, city, state, or country is that I'm trying to get an idea around the U.S. about where there's pockets of good child protection systems and not good. And so far, I haven't found any good pockets, to be honest with you. I've had two social workers. One was from Maryland that talked about CPS for about 40 minutes. Another one talked for almost an hour. They're from Iowa. and they also, besides Iowa, they did work in Illinois. So I've had two social workers in this room so far, and that's been great because we hear perspective. I encourage any other social worker that happens to be in a room, you're more than welcome. I say it how it is. I don't hide anything, and this is a room where people come and uh, and ask why their child who is not in imminent danger is taken from them. They ask why there's no family reunification. They ask a lot of questions, and these parents go through a lot. There's one lady in Washington D.C. that was raped twice, and the first time she had moved into a new home, and it was a gang infested. It was one of those projects where they award people that are struggling low income wise, and so she asked one of the neighborhood kids, and she didn't know he was a gang member, and he was like a young fella, and to help her with the groceries. He takes her upstairs, and then unbeknownst to her, he leaves the kitchen door unlocked, and then his gang members come in and rape her. And then while she's in police custody, they rape her a second time at the hotel where she was taken care of. Her child supposedly was put in with a family member, but he was molested. So I'm telling you, these stories, these horror stories, on both ends of the spectrum are terrible. I mean, they really are. There's a lady who was in foster care growing up 5 times as a child, and she was molested and raped repeatedly. And then she grows up, has children, and then her daughter's taken, and her son, who's 22, she's trying to gain custody, not custody, guardianship, because he's a special needs child. And the police where she lives in Richmond, Kentucky, is really bad. They're really bad. It's the governor that's running for the vice presidency, and he talks about a beautiful state, but he forgets that he has really a corrupt state. Anyway, when you type in your comments, please try to be complete with your CPS case. Now, I mean, be complete is try to start off with your family makeup. That helps me a lot. Are you a married couple, husband, wife, or your girlfriend, boyfriend? Are you a partnership? Or were you just lovers? Is the spouse is still involved with the children? Are you a single spouse, trying to fight this all alone or what? So you sort of say that. The next thing is that why were the children taken? Was it because of neglect, abuse, or both? A little bit more detail of the neglect and abuse. Then you want to say how the children were taken. Did you hand them over? Did they come to your home and take them? Did you show up at the agency and give them? Need that? Then you want to take the case up to this present day, where you're at now, what you need help on. You know, are you, you know, at what hearing are you at, or are you taking parenting classes and those kinds of things? Now, don't forget that I said country. That doesn't mean countries can't text messages. In fact, I've had 15 of them now. The latest was South Africa, and also in the continent of Africa. I've had Mozambique, which is on the east coast, opposite Madagascar, the island off the coast of Africa. I've had Rwanda, who was uh, had a terrible slaughter of over 1 million people in Rwanda, and they called in too about a CPS case. And then I've had Liberia. Liberia's on the northwest coast of Africa, and a guy named Archie who takes care of scouting in their program wants to talk to me, and he's a really great guy. And so, I have the continent of Africa. Then to the east of that, I have India and Bangladesh. I've had people text in from Bangladesh and India. India was really sad because he uh, had children, went to the United States, and then he lost his children, and it's really a mess there. It was really sad there. Now in Europe, I've had England and Scotland and Wales, the United Kingdom, call in, several of them, and then I've had Denmark and Sweden. Now you would think that Denmark and Sweden, Scandinavian countries, would have their act together, but they have horrible times with CPS. Then I've had Canada on both coasts. I've had several calls from the Canadians. and of course all the 50 states, including Washington D.C. And some of the states have been really small, um, like like in South Dakota, the Lakota Sioux on the reservation there called in about how bad their cases were and stuff, and they were talking about ICWA, which is the Indian Child Welfare Act, and how CPS wasn't giving it to the tribe. So anyway, besides the states, I've had um, south of Canada, I've had Mexico, and then further south, I had Guyana, which is on the east coast above Brazil, east of Venezuela. It has a coastal town called Georgetown. And then the land down under, I had Australia. So you can see the cross reference of people that the child protection system is bad even in countries that you would think it wouldn't be. So I'm open to your comments. Please text them in, and I gladly answer them and help you out there. So a third way that you can um, be interact with the show is to be a guest, to be our guest. I would love you to be our guest. As soon as my screen starts moving all over the place, god dang it. Yeah, okay, there's that one there. Here it is. Schedule as our guest. To schedule as our guest, all you need to do is email our show producer. Her name is Grace. She works behind the scenes. She's a hardworking individual and really helps me do my podcast. She'll bring up things that will help me explain things better, and she keeps me in line. And I'm glad that I have her. But she will help you be a guest. All you need to do, and I really would love you to be a guest because that way you're guaranteed a time slot to talk about your case and also help out others. Now, all you need to do is pick one of my 14 shows. Now, I'm on Monday through Sunday. I'm on at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time for an hour, except on Sundays I come on at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then I'm on again at 7 o'clock at night Pacific Standard Time. And with that being said, um, you just tell Grace, I want Bob's Monday evening show, or I want Bob's Thursday morning show. And then you email her, and it's grace at vincentwdavis.com. Grace at vincentwdavis.com. And she'll gladly give you the link. I broadcast on YouTube. I use the StreamYard application, and you found me on Facebook, Fighting CPS. And so just email Grace at vincentwdavis.com. Now, a fourth way is, of course, my phone number. And let me put that up again. Here we go. There we go. Now, that is my office phone number. I use my phone. Our office uses Vantage as its call support. And when you call in, all you do is dial 626-698-0990. It rings my phone as a special ring, and I have the Vonage support on there. I can only do one call at a time. So if you try to call when I'm talking to somebody or try to call at the same time, I can't do a dual call there. Um, and um, So there, I'll put you on speakerphone. You guys speak up loud though, because sometimes a quiet voice doesn't get picked up by my microphone. But please call in. It's probably one of the easiest way to do it. And plus, you get to really get quick answers back and forth. Now, there's a couple people in my room right now. Let me see. I've got another person come in. Okay, this person is from, I believe, let me make sure I get this right, Bukavitzera Havivir, and I think she's from Rwanda in Africa. Am I right? Are you from Rwanda in Africa? I think she is from Rwanda. And, oh boy. See, I remember. And you had called in and learned a lot about your country. And it's amazing you guys went through that terrible time of the 90s where horrific people were exterminated. That was terrible. That's terrible. Anyway, I'm glad you joined us. If there's something you need to know, just ask a question and I can help you. So we have Africa in the house. So that's great. That's great. And then um, I wanted to say one other thing too that uh, I have several people that join me every day, and I sometimes have to say the notification. And one is Faye, and she has lived in Richmond, Kentucky, and she has a terrible time with the police there. Terrible time with the police there. She's working on some paperwork for her court case, so she may not be able to come in the mornings now. She said that she may have to do it off and on and so forth. So, uh, oh, you are here. Hey, boy, speaking of the devil, here I'm talking about you and notify you, and you pop up. So glad you joined me, Faye. So glad you joined me. We have so far two people. We have Lori. I mean, doing comments now. We've had Lori, who's been in here forever, and then we have Muka Bezerra Javier, and she's from Rwanda, which is in Central East Africa, and she's coming to our room to listen too. So um, we have Africa in the house. We have Kentucky in the house, and I wish I knew where Lori was from. I don't know where she's from. So. Uh, and now I'm contacting Natalie, who's from West Hollywood, California, in LA, Los Angeles, and I just sent her a notification. It's just the notifications. I don't know if they come in or. Faye, did you get the notification before I notify you? Did you, Faye? Did you get the notification before I notify you? And see if the notifications are working better. Oh, okay. So I'm good thing that I do that. I've asked Lori. She doesn't say anything. She's just a listener. Yeah, greeting from your beautiful country. I saw pictures. It is beautiful there. You got some nice little areas there and stuff. Very interesting. Okay, 8 minutes into the podcast. Okay, 8 minutes in the podcast. Well, Anyway, um, I'm glad you all are here. I've already talked about how to interact on this podcast. Either you listen, or you type in a comment, or you be a guest on our podcast, or you can call in. I need to put the phone number back up. Somehow the phone number came out. I don't know why it did because I put it there. Anyway, there we go. We got the phone number and everything. And before I forget, I like to talk a little bit about my rule number one. On the screen, you'll probably see a little red sticker with white lettering. That phone number, you want to know what that is. Well, I'd like to introduce you officially to Vincent W. Davis. He's a professional attorney. He is a juvenile family dependency lawyer. Again, that's 35 years of fighting CPS and getting the children back. He's a trial attorney, and he really cares about you as a person. And he does his own podcasts and so forth. My rule number one is you should have attorney. Now I know you get a court-appointed attorney. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but keep in mind a couple things. Court-appointed attorneys have a caseload of 30 or more clients. Secondly, if you have a court-appointed attorney, you will not be able to speak in court or represent yourself or get you things you may not do. In my case, you have to sit out in the hallway. So a court-appointed attorney has its disadvantages. I guess the one advantage is they're cheap, but most of the time they're not very qualified. And they won't fight for your case, and you'll get nowhere. I went nowhere for 6 months using a court-appointed attorney. It was a waste of time, and I had to get rid of her on that. But I'm not against the idea of using a court-appointed attorney if that's all you can. Um, but a professional attorney is one you really should think about. You can also pro se, meaning you can fight it yourself. That means you can be in the court and be against all the other attorneys and judge. The problem is my case was corrupt, and the judge didn't have a background in dependency law. His background was handling car accidents and collision claims. And so his background was very limited. The other people in the court is you're going to have what's called the bailiff, which is usually a sheriff that keeps order in the courtroom and hands the judge paperwork. Then you have the clerk, who is the person that takes, uh, helps out the judge with paperwork and keeps track of everything with the court papers. Then you have the person taking the minutes of the court meeting. I think she's called a stenographer, and she's in there. Then you're going to have, if you have a child, they'll have their court appointed attorney. I say court because the children, unless you got the money to hire them attorney, they will have a court appointed attorney. And those court appointed attorneys are friends with everybody, including the judge. Then you're going to have a social worker's attorney. If you have two social workers, it's two attorneys. And then each parent will have an attorney. If you are pro se, you got a room full of very technical, savvy people that can be hard to go against her. So that's why I introduced you Vincent Davis. He, as I say, he's somebody that has also fought CPS in a civil suit, both at the state level and at the federal level, and won his case. So he has he is a fighter, and he will get your child back. He has made millions of dollars fighting CPS because they are corrupt. They are corrupt. They really are. Anyway, he'll consult with you for 30 minutes for $60. He'll do a consultation for 30 minutes for $60. That's $2 a minute. That's a real reasonable price, and suggest that you call in to 888-888-6582 and tell them, when you talk to the office, tell them that you want a consultation with Mr. Davis and that Bob Pace sent you. Make sure you use my name, Bob Pace sent you. And when you talk to Mr. Davis, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And he like to hear that because he wants to know if I'm getting out to people about him. But he'll fight in any of the 50 states, Northern California. He'll go anywhere. And he also can be retained if you like to retain him. He'll talk to you about his retainer. It's based on the location of the case, how difficult the case is, and how long the case has been going on. And he'll give you a fair, reasonable price to have him defend you. And he's a fighter. He is a fighter. Also, um, there is uh, a uh, ticket up there that shows that on the internet you can go to Candly at CALENDLY.com /law office VWD /Bob Pace. That tickler will take you right to his appointment book, and you're gonna see the what's available. That's Candly CALENDLY.com /law office of VWD /Bob Pace. So, um, I really encourage you, as my rule number one, to get an attorney. It'll relieve you. And if you don't understand why you need an attorney, well, think about this. CPS is just as hard as doing open heart surgery. Now, in open heart surgery, they have to go into the body cavity, and they need a specialist to do that. That's why they get a doctor who's gone to medical school, done an internship, and maybe has mentored another doctor before you go into your heart. Same thing with CPS. You need someone that knows how to navigate, who knows how to work with CPS. You're going to find CPS like you're Alice in Wonderland. You've fallen in the rabbit hole and you're lost going from room to room, and all they talk about is off with your head. It's a crazy place. Remember, they're not transparent. They're not your friends. They'll lead you on and let you down. They'll lead you on and let you down. And I'd like to talk a little bit about some examples of social workers. One are the Pink Ladies in Prescott, Arizona. And in 2020, I think we got a call. All right, Faye. Good morning, Faye.
Hey,
How you doing?
I'm good.
Okay, I got you next to my
So,
microphone, so hopefully everybody can hear you.
so one of the things that I think is just irreprehensible about the cabinet is that in the majority of the cases, they try to make parents look crazy or mentally ill. And the reason for them doing that is so that they can use that phony diagnosis to claim that they're incapable of parenting their kids due to an untreated mental health illness. Okay. And in Kentucky, I don't know about other states, but in mine, if they can get you labeled with a mental health condition, they can have one of the first grounds that they need to terminate your parental rights.
That is so.
So,
Yeah, I'm glad you're sharing that with us. When you said the word cabinet, that is the name of your uh, CPS system there in the Richmond cabinet.
Cabinet for Health and Family Services, CPS,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So for all your listeners, every state has their own name, but hers is the cabinet. So that's what you're referencing. But she has one step further. You would like to share with the listeners about how the police are with your cabinet?
Well, I mean, the police are basically their strong arm. They use the police, to basically force you into doing what they want you to do. Um, like with me, when they came to my house that day, and the social worker had made her mind up, she wanted my children, and I told her no, that she had no reason to take my kids, and that there was nothing wrong with my children. And she says, well, that's not up to you, it's up to me. And I said, I'm going to take your kids, and you're just either going to, sit down, shut up, and deal with it, or we'll have the cops arrest you, you know. And I was like, how can you even do this, Like, how can you come in here and claim that, you know, that a person has a mental disorder, and then use the police to bully them into, letting you, make that decision and take their children from them. I mean, I couldn't, my brain couldn't even comprehend it. But anyway, so throughout my whole case, they tried to claim long withstanding, untreated mental health through the whole case. Okay? But before they took my kids, I had filed a lawsuit for custody and visitation of my oldest child away from my mom. Okay? And during that, I had to have a new mental health evaluation done because my attorney advised it so that when this went to court, they couldn't claim any mental health issues. Okay? So I had that done. And in this letter, it states that I had no mental health issues other than I had a diagnosis of attention hyperactivity disorder. But no bipolar, no major depression or anything like that, no postpartum psychosis, none of the things that the social worker was claiming.
Wow.
And in my termination of parental rights affidavit that they sent me, it stated in there, and I'll read that, hold on a second, I'll pull it up real quick. It stated, respondent mother has been diagnosed with mental illness as defined in KRS 202A.001B and as certified by a qualified mental health professional, which has rendered the respondent, and that was a lie, rendered the respondent mother unable to consistently care for the immediate and ongoing future needs of her children and is not foreseeable to be any more capable in the future.
Now, these professionals they referenced to you, were these truly licensed clinical psychiatrists?
It was their psychiatrist, yes, but here's the thing. Nowhere in the paperwork did it ever say by any of those psychiatrists that I wasn't capable of parenting my kids. Nowhere. I have it all.
What did it say? So what did it say?
But also, well, hold on, Bob. Let me explain it.
Okay.
But also, this mental health evaluation, I'm going to read the letter. I don't care if people hear it. It says, this letter is to inform you, and this was by a mental health psychiatrist at Bluegrass South Comprehensive Care Center in Richmond, Kentucky. It says, this letter is to inform you that Mrs. Manning is involved with our agency's parenting skills group program and attended a mental health evaluation with the same writer today. Based on the Diagnostics and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders on DSM-IVR, I have diagnosed the following issues. On Axis 1, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, the inattentive type, and I do have that. Parent-child relational problem between Mrs. Manning and her mother. Physical abuse of an adult victim by history, talking about I was physically abused by my mother. Sexual abuse of a child victim by history, where I was sexually abused in the foster care system. On Axis 2, no diagnosis. On Axis 3, none reported. Based on the diagnoses, I've recommended Miss Manning consult a local prescriber for an evaluation of ADHD medication. Miss Manning agreed to do so within a timely manner. The relationship between Mrs. Manning and her biological mother appears to be extremely conflictual and chaotic and a source of chronic emotional distress for Mrs. Manning. I am strongly recommending that contact between Mrs. Manning and her mother be at a minimum, if possible. I hope child visitations can be modified for Miss Manning and her son as a consequence to assist Miss Manning in further developing the parent-child relationship between her and her son. I'm recommending Miss Manning finish the parenting classes as well. I did. I have the certificate for that. Miss Manning has informed me she's already completed domestic violence classes. There was no domestic violence in my case, but they had me do them anyway, and I completed them. I had the certificate for that. Miss Manny informed me of having past treatment services as a child in foster care for depression and mood issues as a child or teen, but these issues appear to have been strongly linked to the abuse that she was suffering inside of the system. Miss Manny does not currently demonstrate any symptoms of major depression or bipolar disorder. Thus far, I am not recommending any services for these issues. Furthermore, I am not recommending any further mental health counseling at this time. I appreciate your consideration in this matter, and I've provided Ms. Manny with a copy of this letter. So the cabinet's whole case was built off stating that I had mental health issues that was ongoing, untreated, and that I knew I had them, and I was failing to get them treated. Well, how do you treat something when a provider tells you you don't need to treat it?
Wow. That's something really sad because they misread that whole report. And did you attempt to try to clarify it with them?
I showed it to them. And they said it wasn't valid.
What, the report wasn't valid?
That's what they said. They said the report wasn't valid, even though it is a letter with and it has the letterhead from the actual place where I went to on it. It even has the social worker's name, the Department for Community-Based Services listed on it, and then the psychiatrist's name, Todd Warnick, on it, and the date that it was done, which was May 6, 2011. It had everything on there. And they said, well, that's not valid.
Then did you ask them what is valid then?
I said, well, why is it not valid? Well, because it's not valid because it wasn't an up-to-date one. I'm like, okay, but I shouldn't need an up-to-date mental health evaluation if this evaluation states I don't have any mental health diagnoses.
Well, did you ask
you
them?
all are trying to create.
Right.
You all are trying to create mental health issues where there is none.
And what did they say to that?
No, we're not. I'm like, yes, you are.
Wow. And then did you talk to the supervisor?
The supervisors are in on all of it, so that didn't do no good.
And then the director's no good?
No, they're not. They're all in on it together in this office.
And then I guess
all
after that it'd be the civil rights guy at the top at the state?
We don't have that here as far as I know. The only thing we have here is the office of the ombudsman.
And that didn't work either.
The office for years, people have known that was corrupt too.
Okay.
That's why the ombudsman office has been separated from the cabinet now and put in the state auditor's office, because they had gotten so many complaints over so many years of people putting in complaints to the ombudsman's office and them getting put in the trash bin.
Wow. Well, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So
that is like you are definitely Alice in Wonderland.
Mental illness as the reason to terminate my parental rights, but I have mental health evaluations that state there's no mental health issue.
And what did your court-appointed attorney do? When
Hello?
When you talk to your court-appointed attorney.
Hello?
Are you still there? I hear you, Faye.
Hello?
Yeah, I hear you, Faye. You're still there. Let me try again here.
Hello?
I'll try again. Do you hear me, Faye?
Hello?
Faye.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Must have hit the mute button. I apologize.
Okay. Yeah, but anyway.
So what did the court-appointed attorney recommend you do? What did the court-appointed attorney tell you to do?
The court-appointed court-appointed attorney wasn't worth a crap. She didn't say anything. Matter of fact, my court-appointed attorney actually screwed me over with my case because she would, when we went to court, the second court, I wasn't able to be at the first one because of, me having to go and sign myself in to get an evaluation done at the mental hospital because that's what I had to do to get my kids back. So it wasn't at the first court hearing. But at the second court hearing, I told my court-appointed attorney I didn't want to plead guilty to any neglect because I wasn't guilty of neglect. And she says, well, I think that's a bad idea. She says, because the cabinet's never going to admit that they took your kids for no reason. And if you go to trial with this kid could drag this out, and you don't need that because if you drag your case out, then your kid's just going to meet that 15-month mark, and they're going to be able to adopt your children out. She said, if you just go ahead and you stipulate to the neglect, they'll give you a case plan, you'll work it, and you'll get your kids back. That's what the court-appointed pretender told me. And I said, no, I'm not taking no neglect. I did not neglect my kids. So she went into the courtroom and stipulated to the neglect anyway. Because when you have an attorney and they're representing you, if they don't agree with you, they can still do it on your behalf and not have to have your permission for it.
Wow.
And that's why I took her to a Marsden hearing and fired her ass. Or her butt, I'm sorry. Yeah. I fired her because of what she did to me. And because I fired her, in my state, they only give you one free attorney. If you fire that attorney, you're on your own to find your own after that. So I had to find my own attorney and pay for it in the middle of all that stress and everything going on.
Yeah.
So, but that is why they get people labeled with phony diagnoses, because they know if they can get you labeled mentally, whatever, they can take your kids and adopt them out. Claiming that you can't parent your kids because of mental illness.
So.
My God, Dad, I will call you back.
Okay. All right. Talk to you in a little bit. Wait, are you talking to me?
No, I was talking to somebody else.
Okay. All right.
I was talking to somebody else, Bob.
Okay. All right. So, so they went ahead and took away your daughter because they think you're mentally ill.
Well, no, the whole case was built on that. And the reason for them taking me to TPR was because of them claiming mental illness when there was no mental illness.
Now, when you got rid of the court-appointed attorney, were you pro se at that time, or did you get another attorney?
No, I got another attorney before my next court date.
So how did that come about?
I mean, I just searched for one and hired one, and then he met with me. We went over my case, and he came in towards the halfway mark, towards the end of the case. So it was difficult for him because
what was the background of that attorney? What was the background of that attorney? Was he a dependency attorney?
He has been a family law attorney for 30 plus years.
That's good, but did he have experience fighting CPS?
Oh, he had a lot of experience fighting CPS.
Well, then he should have been a good candidate. Where did he fail? What did he do wrong?
Well, I'm going to tell you where he failed. He failed in thinking that, he had a good relationship with the judge, and the judge wouldn't make no threats towards him. But I can guarantee you that's exactly what happened to him in that TPR hearing that they wouldn't let me be a part of. that made me sit out in the lobby while they had it without me. Because when my attorney came out of the courtroom after he'd been in there for almost 2 hours without me being in there, he was sweaty and pale, and he looked sick. He literally looked sick. The advocate that was there with me, they were like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" He was, yeah. He wiped the sweat from his brow. Yeah, I'm okay. And then he started going into these ultimatums that the judge was giving me to take, and and him telling me why he felt like I should take these.
What were
and I'm
the
like,
ultimatums?
So you're meaning to tell me you all had my TPR hearing and you all excluded me from it, and now you're telling me that I have to take an ultimatum, or if I don't take the ultimatum, I lose both my kids? I'm like, how is this right?
Well, first of all, is it required by law that you to be present? Could they exclude you?
Yes, it is. It is required by law.
So could you not file something that would disqualify an appeal based on the fact you weren't present?
I can't. I couldn't appeal my case because the way that they went about my case was that I had 2 kids in the system. One was a baby. The other one was a now 14-year-old child. They had him for 4 years. They had my daughters from birth to 3.5.
Okay.
So my son wasn't doing good in foster care. He had lost a third of his body weight. He was anemic. They'd been to the hospital numerous times for urinating straight blood. And, he was failing in school. Every placement he was put in, he had disrupted in. The foster parents couldn't deal with him. And that was because he wanted to come home. The ultimatum that was given to me was the judge is willing to, understand that your son's not thriving in foster care. He's not doing good. He's not in an adoptive placement. Nobody wants to adopt him. He doesn't think that the boy would fare well being left to bounce around in the system to the age of 18.
Wow.
So I think we would have a good chance of getting your son out. He says, but when it comes to your daughter, no chance. The judge is not going to give you your baby back. He says, you can get your son, but you're not going to get your daughter. He says, and if I were you, I would get my son. He says, because you probably will never see him again if you don't.
Wow. Well, to all our listeners, this is really hard because Faye's a remarkable woman. She's been on my show for a long time, and every time I learn something new. And if you haven't seen her picture right now, she's put her mother up, even though her mother and her really don't have a real solid, close relationship. She still loves her mother. And her mother's birthday is this month, and she wanted to honor her mother and put her mother's picture.
And my mom's dead.
So, okay. I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, she passed away. She passed away in 2011, June 3rd, 2011.
Okay.
But, she's still my mother regardless.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm trying to tell you. All you listeners out there, here is a woman with a big heart who's been through so much. I told you about how she was abused and raped in foster care, and she was in that system 5 separate times. And that was before she reached the age of 18. So it is possible. She's right now trying to get guardianship of her son, but the police are giving her a hard time. The police is so corrupt that they recently,
and the probate court.
Yeah, they recently arrested a woman who was fighting a grievance against the police department and made up a trumped up charge that could carry her a prison sentence of 20 years.
Yeah, well, they didn't arrest her or take her kids away until she filed the public corruption case against the Madison County Sheriff's Department and the Madison County CPS office.
Wow.
jail on trumped up charges based off retaliation.
Social workers do retaliate. I mean,
And so do police.
yeah, police do too. I think the police retaliated on me too. The more I think about it, the more things. Every time I talk in the show, I see something in my case that was wrong. I was wrong. I mean, wow, wow. It hurts. It hurts to lose your children. It does. It really does. But we shouldn't forget and keep fighting. It's one thing you need to keep persistent at it.
Yeah. I've been fighting. I've been fighting for 30 plus years.
Right, right. Well, I was earlier talking about the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act, and the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota, the home of the Lakota Sioux. And it's really sad how that is probably the poorest place in the country. It is so bad that the proud Native American Indian is wilting away there. They're about only left about 100,000 Lakota Sioux that still speak the language that is still Lakota Sioux, and it's just sad because there once were all over the plains. I mean, it's funny how cultures take over cultures. I know we have a woman in this room here who's from Rwanda, and her whole uh, livelihood of 1 million people were eliminated in 1994. Now that's just recently, and it's amazing how people want to wipe out people. And it's not because their skin was the wrong color; it's because of the ethnic background. Rwanda all have the same skin color, but they wiped out 1 million people, and it was sad how they did it. They used men that were infected with AIDS to have pregnancy with these women to eliminate them so they die out. They were trying to exterminate the people just like they did the Jews in Germany. It's this crazy world we live in, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
Faye, I want you to know that I know the people value what you say. You open your heart on this talk podcast, and I'm glad you do because every story you sit there or stay or whatever. What did you think about the social worker we had last night?
Um, I mean, I don't know really. I mean, what I've learned about social workers, the majority of them, is they have a Jekyll and Hyde personality.
Oh, that's a good way of putting
You
it.
know, they'll seem all, understanding and empathetic when all eyes are on them, but then when it comes to handling their cases, it's something completely different.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I'm not going to say anything on here to hurt anybody's feelings. So, but that's just my opinion that social workers have two different personalities.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. It's a hard job being a social worker because they run across some bad neglect and abuse cases. I mean, the most horrific abuse case I ever heard of was when a mother left her child at home for over a week, abandoned with no food or water.
But you do know that those cases are the least cases involved with DCBS or DCF or whatever the acronym
The child
is.
protection system. You just say,
Physical abuse, kids in foster care are the physical abuse and the sexual abuse is the least cases. Most of the cases are for neglect.
yeah, yeah,
And that's per their own calculations. So that's just not me spitting out numbers. That actually comes from Health and Human Services' own calculations of, the amount of children in foster care and the percentages of what children are in foster care, what for. You know, physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect. They have categories. And the category with the most is neglect. Most of the children in care are in there for neglect or behavioral issues.
Mm-hmm.
And the least amount are for physical abuse and sexual abuse.
Yeah.
So yes, they do see some bad situations, but not near as much as they make it seem like.
Yeah. Well, they've discovered money, and money is what makes excuse of what they do. They want that money. They want that bonus or incentive.
See, one of their go-to things in Kentucky, where Kentucky has a bad epidemic of drug use,
Yeah.
they use drug use all the time as their excuses for why so many kids are in foster care. Drug use and mental illness is the top reason in Kentucky why kids are taken away from parents.
And you do not see it getting any better, but getting worse.
Oh no, it's never going to get better. It's never going to get better until there are some laws that's changed. And until those particular laws changes, this will never get better.
What law changes are you talking about?
They need to reverse ASPA for one, because ASPA did nothing but put bounties on the heads of children. For every child that they take in, not long after they take a child into foster care, they have them labeled as a special needs child. Because for a normal child going into foster care with no exceptional or special needs, they only get $4,000 for that child. But if they can get them labeled special needs while they're in foster care, they can get $8,000 for that child.
So it is a money-making thing that they work off.
And also, what a lot of people don't understand either, that children get labeled special needs if they're a sibling group. So if your child has a brother or sister that gets taken along with them, they're automatically deemed a special needs sibling group. And if your skin is brown or black, you're automatically considered special needs.
So they do use race discrimination.
Yes, yes, they do. Yes.
Well, I'm glad that you shared this with us because it's nice to hear from a mother who has brought in two children in this world, who grew up in foster care, who had abuse growing up. She's sharing the reality. It's a reality check. And it's sad that we don't have an agency that really cares about parents or wants to do family reunification, that they need to always take children that are not in extreme danger. We just had Jose Diaz come in. How to sue CPS for lying and committing perjury. You can sue CPS if your case is over. And you need to contact an attorney who has sued CPS. We have one here who produces podcasts. His name is Vincent W. Davis. 888-888-6582. You can call in Jose Diaz. Now, Jose, where are you from? What country are you from, or what city and state are you from? I'm trying to get an idea.
You know, I tried for 7 years to find an attorney that would sue CPS for what was done to my family, and they either wanted thousands and thousands of dollars up front, or as soon as I told them, you know, that about CPS and what was involved and how complex it was going to be, they didn't want to go with it.
Okay. Yeah, Jose Diaz, he's from New York. I'm going to have to end my show here. I want to thank Faye Manley, who has called in, who has expressed and opened up her heart, and who has come to our show numerous times. I want to thank Jose Diaz for coming into the room. I'm on again tonight at 7 p.m. You can call. And yeah, Yonkers, New York, Westchester County, one of the most corrupt ones. Yes. Well, I've had several people from New York with very corrupt. And so I want to thank Jose and Faye. And let me see who else we have in the room so I can sign off here. Um, Let me see. Oh, Montsabera, um, excuse me, Mukabizera Javier from Rwanda, Africa. That's Central East Africa. Thank you for joining us again. Lori Hilner, you always join us. So I want to thank all the other listeners who maybe did not comment but are listening. Thank you all. Thank you for the emojis. And remember, keep fighting for your kids. You will get them back. God bless you. And this is Bob Pace signing off.